We're back, changing construction experiences. This is Renovate and Build with Jim and Sandra.
Good morning. So happy to have you join us this morning. Jim, you know, I was going through the papers, reading some of the articles as I do every day, and I just sometimes am astounded at people will do anything to avoid paying money, especially when it comes to fines when they're doing something wrong, like how they deal with asbestos, for instance. And new legislation is being proposed right now by BC. And we're going to be speaking with Patrick Fleck of Fleck Construction about asbestos and how he feels if the new act will actually be effective. And that's going to be taking place in a few moments. But it's just fascinating. Like, we could keep him here for 2 hours talking about this legislation and what needs to be done to get some of these, pardon me, but crooks under control.
Crooks is a great word. So yeah, good morning to you. And, you know, thanks for tuning in to Renovate and Build. Sandra, you know, we're still here after another hectic week at Fairtrade Works and back on the radio. So I hope you're hanging in there like me, and we're looking forward to the rest of the weekend and taking a little bit of downtime.
Yeah, I think it's been the media coverage that's kept us busy this week, as you mentioned earlier, with the Sun and the Globe and Mail. Lots of Asian papers have been covering your heritage project right now, and it keeps bringing up that topic of asbestos, as we had mentioned earlier, and how many experts we need to keep a project going and people that we can trust, especially when you're dealing with dangerous chemicals, etc.
Yeah, and that Rosemary project is a classic example of where, you know, we're bringing in right now, I think we have about 60 or 70 people involved in that one project, from individuals like Fleck Contracting and all our trades and contractors, and it's just a monster, and we need to collaborate on projects like this to make sure that, you know, we keep moving forward and kind of, you know, keep this project on track. And that is the construction industry. It just takes a phenomenal amount of people, and it takes true experts to kind of make a project like that come together and kind of chime right. So it's really important.
And so many people that have been listening to the show through the weeks since we've started and saying, you know, we can't believe a construction company is on the air doing radio. What are you doing with this guy, bringing him on? And I said, it's just one of those areas that we don't get to talk a lot and bring experts into the field. It's often the glossy renovation shows that hit the airwaves. So this is an opportunity to bring all of those experts to and you know, allow them to have a voice.
Yeah, and I think it's to talk about real construction, and construction's a tough game to be in. Even if you're in the business, it's a tough environment to navigate, right? So for consumers and homeowners and commercial clients, I think it's trying to go out there and get something accomplished in a cost-effective and quality manner is becoming almost impossible in today's marketplace, you know. And people really need, and that's why we started this radio show, is to become a trusted source, because I believe there's a massive lack of information out there, and there's a lot of misinformation, endless information that is the internet and all these things. So we're trying to, at Fairtrade Works, bring together a group of trusted individuals who really are true experts in their field and want to make a difference, and they're passionate and they're young, and with a new generation of kind of, you know, people in our industry, and we want to rejuvenate the sector and bring it up to a world marketplace. And it's, no offense, there's lots of great experience in there, but some of the old boys just don't have that passion anymore, and they just kind of, they're stuck in their ways. And Fairtrade Works is all about rejuvenating the industry and setting new standards, setting new timelines, creating market value, using all the tools that we have in 2014, whether it be technology, whether it be algorithms, whether it be crunching data, and using our business savvy to create a new environment to make these projects really profitable, successful, excel at customer service, and all these things that are desperately lacking from the construction industry.
Well, and we love true facts and opinions, and that's why right now we're going to be joined by our next guest, Patrick Fleck from Fleck Construction. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So great to have people like you on board when I get a little feisty here and want to spit out newspaper facts, so I'm sure you're going to be straightening us out as we go along. Patrick, the first thing we wanted to talk about, of course, and we'll get to that, is the WorkSafe BC changes that are being proposed to deal with the repeat offenders who are avoiding rules for proper asbestos abatement, and that's going to be in a moment. But what we really want to do right now is just start by explaining what an abatement company is, an abatement company like Fleck Contracting.
So simply put, we specialize in the safe removal and disposal of the asbestos throughout buildings. So you know, it's commonly found in a lot of materials through the house. So
how common? Could you share with people? Like, I don't think a lot of people realize it's not something that stands out and is glowing.
No, it was extensively used in every building product between the 1940s and into the 80s. So I would say a majority of every house prior to built 1980 has some sort of asbestos in it somewhere, whether it be the drywall taping compound on the mud, the floors, the exterior of the house, you know, that it can hide in a lot of common areas.
Yeah, it's not always consistent too, right? There's not really any way of just saying, yes, it's going to be there, yes, it's not. It really does kind of.
No, and it's one of those things too where no matter how special you feel, you can't just look at it and take a look and think that it's there or not. You know, it needs to be analyzed and it needs to be determined safely whether it's present or not. And that's one of those things where now with these work safe initiatives in place, you know, they've been thoroughly increasing their inspections on reports and such to make sure that they're done in a correct manner, which helps the industry definitely.
How did you get into asbestos abatement?
Well, I was in this is well, pardon me. The Fleck Contracting started out as a family company in mid '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, started building houses, but over the course of almost 30 years, we've meandered into asbestos abatement, which has been about 20 years going now. So we have a long history of dealing with it, working with you know, respected environmental consultants, working side by side with WorkSafe BC, and you know, just making sure that you know, over the course of 20 years, you know, we've been able to build very strong practices and a strong reputation.
It's such a science, isn't it, now?
Yeah, I've actually got a quick Flex story because when I came to Canada about 10 years ago, we used to work for your dad. So it was when he was in the oil tank removal business. So I actually you know, when I came to Canada looking for a job, and I crossed paths with your father and actually used to do some labouring back in the day for him. So
Yeah,
there's a little bit of history there.
Yeah, long line.
Yeah.
So I was also going to ask Patrick, what do some of the good companies do that deal with asbestos, and then rather than some of the bad companies? We'll talk about them in a minute.
Well, you know, the good companies, to be honest, just are following the practices outlined. You know, we're assessing the sites, containing the area, removing it safely, disposing of it in the correct facilities, you know, and have all the documentation to back it up. So that's one of the big keys is, you know, if it's done correctly, there's evidence of that process.
Yeah, and the guys kind of skirting around that kind of proper legislation. What are they up to? How are they kind of skirting around this?
You know, one of the most common ones is probably putting their employees at risk with bad safety and work practices, disposing of it illegally. There's been talk amongst the industry that you know, even the reports themselves are being falsified to try and make a buck and for a client and change the facts. So, yeah. You know, it's tough to say, but like those are all practices that, you know, people in the industry have heard about that are being done, and so anything that can be done by legislation or policing or whatnot to rid that of the industry, we're big fans of.
Yeah, because people don't just think about that, not just the homeowners at risk, but like you said, the employees. Like when you guys were moving that boiler the size of a garden shed at the Rosemary there in a contained area with blow torches, grinders, good God, it was the whole site was like glowing orange, right? It's a hazardous site. People, and you know, there's noise, the fans are going, like it's a dangerous environment, you know, and somebody can die in there, you know, and it's that serious. So I think it's something that people, you know, should take seriously and not duck around because, yeah, once somebody gets killed, and it's a poor show, right? So
yeah, well, and to be honest, the cost of doing it properly isn't that much more significant than you know, doing it in an unsafe manner.
Even like risk assessment too. Like what like say you're a homeowner and you want to get an asbestos test, and they call you for an asbestos test. Like what would that cost?
To be honest, get a report for a house, which is generally $500 to $700, somewhere in that range.
Exactly.
You know, like,
yeah.
And then they have the information knowing if there's any asbestos anywhere in the house, and you know, the proper ways to deal with it. So, you know, that small piece of information, you know, may sound like a lot of money to someone, but
it's priceless. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you were talking about putting their workers at risk. In this article I was reading on, it's just pulled from the Vancouver Sun on Thursday, July 17th, but it was talking of the 149 workplace deaths accepted in 2012. 68 were actually because of exposure to asbestos. Like, unbelievable. So besides just, besides the deaths that are taking place, what are the other ramifications of not dealing with asbestos correctly?
Well, other than, employee health, you have the general public's health, and to keep in mind as well. So obviously WorkSafe is has a lot of fronts for trying to get on top of this and make it a safer practice.
Right. So it's the dumping as well when you're saying the public's in place?
Yeah, well, and even in an apartment building, for example, if someone's renovating their suite, they could be contaminating the hallway and the people all in the building, without even knowing it. So the proper process, and I think that they're making it a bit more integrated into the process of demolition with requiring permits and such. But one big thing that homeowners and contractors really should be keeping an eye on is the renovation side of things too, right? And being diligent that anything prior to the 80s should be tested.
Such a good number for us all to keep in mind.
So I have another question. Like, do you feel the new proposed clampdown on legislation is necessary, and is it a majority of the abatement experts or the minority? Like, do you think most people are toeing the line, or is it just a few people that kind of?
No, I think that well, first of all, I think that the legislation is a good step in the right direction, and any sort of extra policing or any extra process that they can do to make sure that things are being done correctly is certainly a step in the right direction. And yeah, I think the majority of companies are doing it correctly. From what I hear in the industry, and obviously companies that have been around a long time, they clearly are able to follow rules and guidelines, right? Because it's the flash in the pan type companies that show up and get a fine and disappear and change their name and come back another company, etc.
I think that's pretty common, right? The guys that are established and have been through the wars and the ups and downs and know how to run their business and what it's all about, those are the kind of companies that people should turn towards to kind of, turn for advice, So.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why some companies are sticking around and some aren't.
Exactly.
Well, they were saying that, Patrick, that some of the companies were fined as much, especially roofing companies, were fined as much as $36,000 each, and that one company in particular was given $227,000 in fines, just over and over and over again.
Yeah, and these are guys that are, sort of known in the industry that have been following those practices, and, unfortunately, they're probably still doing the same things. They're obviously not scared off by fines or by moral practices. So it's unfortunate that that still goes on, but hopefully that's fewer and fewer companies now.
So you think looking at a company's history is a big important part of picking the proper abatement company?
Oh, certainly too, yeah. And as we said earlier, just making sure that they can provide you with the proper documentation through the process. Where it's going, how it was done. WorkSafe BC stops by a lot of sites these days, and they should be happy with what they're seeing. So all the paperwork is there, and that's another big step for a client. They should have that evidence.
Good.
So Patrick, I know
there's still lots more ahead. This is Renovate and Build, powered by Fair Trade Works, with Jim and Sandra.
Here on Renovate and Build.
Yeah, no, I'd be very happy to. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick. We've been speaking with Patrick Fleck, co-owner of Fleck Contracting. If you'd like to know more about asbestos or need abatement in general, you can contact him at fleckcontracting.com. That is FLECK, fleckcontracting.com. Or, of course, you can visit our Facebook page. That's at facebook.com/renovate-build for his contact information.
And it's that magic time again when we hand over our headphones to Tom Lucas and Sherry Brown for Radio Real Estate. We'll see you next Saturday, same time, same place.
Next week's show highlights include a trip to Vancouver for our neighborhood news segment, this time with reporter Mike Curvell. And we'll be speaking with real estate professional Nicola Campbell about good property investment as well as development. And Meg and Gary will be joining us again to discuss smart locks. That's on Product Face Off.
Coming up next, Tom Lucas and Sherry Brown with Radio Real Estate. We'll see you all next Saturday.
Introducing a revolutionary new construction system. This is Renovate and Build with Jim and Sandra.